Good afternoon. I am Rudy Knapp. This is Legacy Build Your Kingdom. I am back. We are here with a pretty good topic on our podcast today. I just want to start by stopping, taking a deep breath, reflecting on where we've come from, where I've been. There are 30 something episodes that I've had. I kind of lost track of time and how long this has been going on. It seems like it's a lot longer, but it's actually hasn't been. I want to say how grateful I am for where I'm at in life today. So many times we forget this. And for a period of time, I forgot this. And even though I'm here, I'm preaching to you about this concept of building your kingdom, we all go through a backlash of feeling this, either feeling sorry for ourselves or feeling in a way in which things aren't going our way. I don't know how much I feel sorry for myself. I don't think I get to that victim role ever. I actually despise the victim role in life. I don't believe anyone is the victim they put themselves out to believe for themselves. I think we have to have an approach of staying positive, moving forward, having gratitude, eliminating these expectations that we continuously put on ourselves and then put on others. So I'm just going to say I'm grateful for where I'm at in life to this day. I feel that there's many times where I get down from certain things not going my way, just like anyone else, but to sit back and really thank God, to really look at God and say, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, even if it doesn't go my way. Thank you for my healthy children. Thank you for my health myself. Even though I'm going through some things with health wise, I'm starting a new endeavor in looking at how I can fix some of the problems that I have, the aching back that I have, the bulging disc, things that I'm trying to keep from debilitating myself, starting some stem cell therapy, trying to get into something to help my own self for my future, invest in my health. And so that's a big part of these five pillars I always preach. And we have to really own up to our mental part of this. We're having gratitude. And we also own up to the physical part of it. Are we eating healthy? Are we working out? Are we fixing the things that we need to fix about ourselves, including listening to the doctor, trying new things, never giving up, understanding that this is our temple and we need to make sure that we're healthy mentally, physically, and then also spiritually. Again, starting off by saying thank you to God. I know that we hear this a lot from athletes, we hear from people, but the truth of the matter is you shouldn't be ashamed to say thank you, God, and to believe in that higher purpose and to believe in yourself. And so God believes in me. I believe in him. I have faith. And so when I look at this, I am grateful for the things that are happening in my life at this moment. I am still moving forward. I still have plans. I am still not going to share every one of my plans with everyone. I've learned that you can share some things. I've also learned that you should keep some things to yourself. And when you do and you accomplish them, you can reveal them to whoever. But the idea would be, don't let other people interfere with some of the things that, may be on your list to get done or do, and they may discourage you. So we're not letting outside sources affect our future. You have your beliefs, you have what you believe in and what you want to accomplish. You should be building that kingdom up every single day and building those people around you. So I'm going to say thank you again for my health is now starting to get back on track. For my mental health is getting back to where I need to be and sorting out some things for myself. For my spiritual health of starting a new year with God and incorporating God into my kids more efficiently. And then also just the idea that I am growing as a person, my own thinking, my own way of looking at things. I am definitely having flaws in my life. I've had flaws in my life, but I am going to move forward and fix the things that I know that I need to work on for myself, but also, you know, I'm going to celebrate myself as well. I am a confident person in what I do and what I bring to the table. I am happy to say that I am moving forward in a positive direction for all parts of my life. So I am feeling pretty good today. I'm feeling good about life. I'm feeling good that I can be confident in myself. It's not always an everyday thing that you feel these ways, but I'm moving forward. So I start that off by saying those comments. I hope everyone else believes in that concept, like we talked about a few times ago in a podcast about, hey, you should wake up every day feeling like $10 million. And if you can wake up and say that, and you can honestly say, hey, you're moving forward, then yeah, you should be happy with your life and the things you're putting into place. I am going to say that we ended a podcast series on relationships. If you did not get to it, please go back and get to it. The last one was on Circle, the acronym that I came up with that is about what I think is the foundation for a successful, good relationship. If you didn't get to it, please take a look at my perspective. I think that it could help anybody in their lives if they take something from it. I also believe that you're going to have your own opinions on things, and as long as you're open enough to look at perspective, you have the ability to grow. We're going to talk about growth today, and some of that is really important with the topic that we're on today. We left off by having a conversation about strength and control. I've learned a few things, and I've been preaching on here about strength. We talked last week about what is strength, what is the ultimate strength, and we went into this concept of control. And if you have self-control over your physical being, you have self-control over your mental thought process. If you can control that narrative that you create, and if you can control your reaction to people and anger and what's happening in the moment, you are truly strong. And it is a very difficult topic. Go back and listen to last week's podcast. I believe it was a very good one that talks about maybe something that you might need to reflect on, because honestly, almost everybody needs that. I am working on it day in and day out. It is not an overnight process. And that leads to today's topic that kind of relates to that. So I think that I've been doing some research on some information about this topic, because ultimately, when I preach build your kingdom, we can't just magically wish it. We actually have to do things in order to build ourselves up, right? So we have to gain knowledge, we have to learn, we have to actually apply what we're talking about, we have to actually apply what we're preaching and what we believe in. We have to apply what we believe in God. And so sometimes we get away from that. Sometimes we go to church on Sunday and we go back and we do the exact same thing and the same pattern. And, are we really following what we should be following when it comes to the Word of God? So those are things you're going to ask yourself and what you believe in. But today, to go back to that concept of self-control, I look at this idea of self-control as constant growth or looking to help yourself. And when I look at that, I look at an intelligence. What kind of intelligence do you have as a person? Real easy to do the same thing over and over again, expect a different result. Definition of insanity, right? So we're looking at this idea of what is intelligence, right? So what is the highest form of intelligence? So I'm asking you to think about that for a second. I'm going to tell you this. The highest form of intelligence, it's not your IQ, right? It's not your memory or speed and how fast you can think of things and come up with things. It isn't even logic. According to neuroscientists, according to this research, the rarest intelligence is something that's completely different than that. And most people never develop it. And that's why it's so rare. That's why it's the highest form of intelligence. And the ones that do understand this, the ones that do get this high form of intelligence, they outgrow everyone. They decide that they move forward with growth and they surpass everyone else in intelligence. It doesn't mean people are stupid. It doesn't mean any of that other things, but it means that they have this highest form of intelligence because they have something that other people don't. So what am I talking about here? Well, I'm talking about this concept of metacognition. It is definitely the highest form of intelligence. All the research I've done in the last month or so on this, and I thought it's very interesting because it does relate a lot to what I've been preaching with self-control. We can also define self-control as some emotional regulation, right? And so as I talked about self-control last week, we talked a little bit about controlling, again, your physical being, your mental being, and your reactions. Well, how does that exist? Well, metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking, not react blindly, not run on autopilot, but observe your mind in real time while it's happening. It means you notice your thoughts, you question your reactions, you interrupt emotional reflexes, you update beliefs instead of defending them. And every time you say, hey, wait, why did I react like that? Your brain starts changing. These neuroscientists, they found when you observe your own thoughts, this region called the anterior prefrontal cortex activates in your brain. This region is not action, it's not emotion, it's for self observation. Your brain literally turns in its attention inward towards yourself. So it's really interesting to think about that when you can actually look outside of your mind and look at yourself in real time of understanding what's actually happening. You're thinking about your thinking again. Most people, they run their mental software like automatically. Metacognition is different. It's like a computer that can edit its own programming while it's running. That's why self-aware people evolve faster than everyone else. Very difficult to do. I'm going to stand here and give a disclaimer here. I'm not saying I am perfect, and I am not saying that this is me, but this is what I'm working on. And this is where I recognize the growth in myself, and I hope that other people can do the same. And I hope people can relate to some of this, because if they can, and they hear what I'm going to express here, maybe this is something we actively work on, and we'll get to actively working on this. One crazy important observation research have found is that by simply labeling your emotions like I'm anxious or I'm overwhelmed or I'm angry, it changes brain activity instantly. This activates the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex and calms your fear center. Now, these words, whatever they are, this is the scientific looking at. But the whole concept is if you can activate these parts of your brain and you can activate and calm your fear center, think about what happens in the moment. In that moment, you're calming yourself. Little simple things like actually labeling your emotions. Really interesting, because if you can label your emotions, you can now calm yourself in a sense. It may not be perfect. It may be the start of calming. This is like a concept that we call this neuroelectric remodeling. You're actually trying to remodel this way of thinking, these things that are happening in your brain. Awareness alone alters neutral signaling. Naming the emotion reduces its intensity. Observations wakens impulsive reactions. Your brain rewires through noticing. So when I read this and I think about that, this is a concept of something so simple by labeling that can help us in the moment. And when we start talking about what's actually happening with our brain, it makes a lot of sense. When we start focusing on what's actually happening instead of the surface level thought process, we can start digesting and start controlling and working towards fixing the things that are happening that are emotional and self-regulating ourselves, especially when we're emotional and angry. Another layer uncovered when you recall a memory while being aware that you're recalling it, the brain enters a state called memory reconsolidation. During this window, emotional meaning softens, old interpretations loosen, new associations can overwrite the old ones. This is how change happens. Now, I got that from this clip where I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, what does this mean? So I made sure I look deeper into this. And as I continue to say, if you start looking at how you can stop that emotional anger, that emotional well-being that's happening in the moment, when we do these little tricks for ourselves, we're actually actively trying to better what our own control is of ourselves, because we are out of control at that moment. You can't just heal by positive thinking. That just doesn't happen. You can't just say, I'm going to think positively. You heal by observing your thoughts without becoming them. This moment that you have of distance, like you're pulling yourself away, you separate you from these old stories. You reduce emotional charge, and it allows beliefs to be rewritten. Awareness edits your file system. So in your brain, you have this file system, and you are filing all these things. And when you see these same things, these same patterns that are happening, you can take a moment and you can redirect that instead of going to the same pattern, the same way that you react, the same way that you get angry, the same reaction from what happens after. You can Cognitively look at yourself and say, this is happening in the moment. I need to redirect. It's amazing that you have the capability of doing this. We all have powerful brains. We have to start looking at ourselves and how do we better when we are in conflict. And this, to me, is how we set a precedence to look at our own selves and how do we better our own thinking. Metacognition. The reason most people never develop this metacognition is because it's uncomfortable. It requires pausing instead of reacting, questioning instead of defending, watching yourself fail honestly. Think about that. We all hate to fail. We all are to blame for something and we don't want to take accountability for it. We all have this idea where we don't want to fail. Ego hates this. Growth requires it. Logic solves problems. Memory stores information. Speed processes data. But metacognition, that controls all of it. It governs everything. It decides when to stop, when to adapt, when to change strategy. Without it, intelligent pauses and it becomes stagnant. Highly self-aware people, they learn faster, they regulate emotions better, they recover from failure. Think about that. They recover from failure faster, quicker, and they avoid repeating the same mistakes. Not because they're smarter than everyone, but because they're watching themselves. They're looking at their own actions, they're looking at the way that they think, and they're fixing it. Every time you notice your thoughts instead of obeying them, your brain upgrades itself. Think about that. We all think things, we all have thoughts. So if we think about this idea of all having thoughts, and we understand that these thoughts are us deciding that we're going to follow what they say. If we're obeying them, who's in control? So we have to take back control of our own thoughts. We have to look at our own self and say, you know what, just because I have these thoughts doesn't mean that's what I'm going to do. Your brain is upgrading itself when you notice these thoughts instead of actually saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to do what they tell me to do. This moment of awareness, this isn't weakness, it's evolution in real time. It's you actually learning and moving forward. All right, so what is metacognition? Well, it's the awareness of your own thoughts. It's thinking about thinking. It's noticing emotional and cognitive patterns without judgment. It's pausing before reacting to impulse and stress. It's questioning assumptions instead of following them automatically. It's reflecting on past decisions to improve future ones. It's observing biases and habits in your daily thinking. It's choosing actions deliberately instead of automatically. Now think of it like this. Think of this example. Your thoughts are a car. Metacognition is the driver. Without metacognition, you just press the gas. With metacognition, you steer it, you slow down, you change directions, you're in control. This is why metacognition is linked to better decisions, faster learning, fewer repeated mistakes, and emotional control. It helps you notice things. I'm reacting emotionally. This strategy isn't working, or I need to pause. People who use metacognition better use a higher level of intelligence. It's not thinking harder, it's thinking wiser. It can be trained. Now, it can be trained. So let's talk a little bit about that quickly and what we can do to train this. What are some examples of what we can do to help ourselves with metacognition understand and start thinking this way? Well, again, just to reiterate, metacognition intelligence, it's thinking about thinking, enhanced by actively planning, monitoring, evaluating one's cognitive processes. These key skills include self-regulation. You got to reflection. You have to have self-questioning. You often develop through journaling, thinking aloud, seeking feedback. To improve, you should set goals, analyze your thinking, your learning, adapt your strategies when encountering something difficult. So plan, define your goals. Even before you have a conversation, let's just say this is about your future, or let's just say this is about a conversation you're having with someone, a difficult conversation. You plan, what are my goals to have in this conversation? this communication. You're assessing your knowledge of what you're going to talk about, what you're going to bring to the table. What is the goal? What is the strategy you're going to use? Plan. And then during the conversation, monitor, right? Assess what's happening in real life. How are the person reacting? How's the communication going? Are you being understood? Are they listening to you? Are they understanding? Are they giving feedback? Use strategies like analogies, come up with examples. And if the comprehension or the communication of you speaking breaks down, where is the adjustment? Evaluate, even after you have the conversation, even after you communicate with someone, reflect on the effectiveness of your strategies and what you said. What was the final outcome? Did this approach work? What would I do differently? So again, really important, self-reflection, self-questioning, thinking aloud, goal setting, self-regulation. In the moment, in the time that it's happening, how are we adjusting and looking and taking a step back and looking at our own self and our own way of thinking? Being aware, thinking about thinking. In the process of an emotional distress, are we taking time to look at ourselves and what's happening to us and adjusting so we don't have the same patterns and cycles? All right, that's a lot. This is a lot of neuroscientific information. This is a lot of how do I build my kingdom and how do I continue to work on myself and the way that I'm thinking. We talked about the way we think. We talked about how thoughts turn into thinking. And we talked about how it can turn into a narrative a long time ago in our podcast. This is all a reflection on all of this. Choosing control of yourself. All related from last week to this week. Metacognition intelligence is the highest form of intelligence. Believe me, some of you out there have it, and some of you are going to work on it, and majority of us are going to continue to work on it because most people don't have it. I'm challenging you to truly look at yourself and your patterns and your thinking and what happens in your emotional distress and how you work on that. I'm going to leave you with this. This is a great way to look at this great quote from someone that I thought was awesome. Metacognition is the process of stepping back from the thoughts and getting enough distance to allow us to see the thoughts from what they really are. So you're taking that step back, enough distance so we can see what's actually happening with those thoughts for what they really are. Not in the moment, not up close, not where we're blinded to see what's actually happening. Let's take a step back and look at it in the moment, in the real time, and actually see what's happening. Let's actually condition our brain to open up so we can unlock those strategies. One of those strategies we talked about, again, just identifying your emotions, right? Simply labeling your emotions. I'm going to start trying it. I'm going to start saying and working when I'm in a conversation that's difficult, when I'm having a conversation, I'm getting angry right now. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to observe that I'm getting angry, and I'm going to stop and self-reflect while this is happening. I'm going to question while it's happening so I don't erupt. So I have emotional regulation. So I take control of myself. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. I hope that this is something that's educational a little bit, that you guys will take something from this, add it to your perspective on life, your perspective on yourself. Truly look in the mirror. Another concept I keep talking about, looking in the mirror, self-regulating yourself, making sure you go through and you have control of all of your well-being, building your kingdom one day at a time, always working to better yourself. Have gratitude for the things that you have in life, and praise God because God is good. You have life. Wake up and live like your life is worth it. Please follow, please pass it on. Please go back and check out the ones that maybe you didn't listen to. Take a look at it. All of this is building something bigger for me in the future. What it's doing for me is helping me evolve as a person, growth in who I am, and I will continue to do it. And wherever it leads me, whatever path it leads me to, it surely is opening the door to me understanding myself and being better for those people around me, for my own self. And the sky is the limit. I can't wait for this year. This year is already starting off to a lot of things are getting done for me in 1 month's time. We are going to have some fun this year. We're going to make sure that we evolve as people. I'm going to work out some things with my life, just like I hope you all are. Have a great day. Have a blessed day. I will see you next week.